My daughter Emily's wrist was brutally broken by fake HOA cops claiming authority in our own neighborhood. These imposters, abusing their fake badges, thought they could intimidate and silence us without consequences. But when I flashed my real U.S. Marshal ID, everything changed, turning the tables on them in a way no one expected. Just wait until you hear how this shocking showdown unfolded and why justice ultimately took its rightful place. My name is Jake Miller. That evening started just like any other, quiet, calm, the kind of peaceful night you expect in a suburban neighborhood where everyone knows each other. I was outside with my daughter Emily, watching her play near the community park, just a few steps from our front porch. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the trees and sidewalks. Then, without warning, everything changed. Two men appeared out of nowhere. They wore uniforms that looked official at first glance. Dark shirts, badges clipped to their belts, radios buzzing softly. They claimed to be from the HOA security team, enforcing rules that none of us really understood. Their tone was sharp, almost hostile. They told Emily she was trespassing in a restricted area of the park, a spot that had never been off limits before. I stepped forward, trying to ask questions, to understand what was happening. Before I could even finish a sentence, one of the men reached out and grabbed Emily's arm roughly. I saw her face twist in pain, and then I heard a sickening snap. It was the worst sound I've ever heard, the sharp crack of a bone breaking. Emily screamed, collapsing to the ground, clutching her wrist. Time seemed to freeze. I stood there, unable to move, watching as my little girl suffered, and those men continued to act like they were above the law. They didn't show any real badges, just fake IDs and poorly made patches that mimicked official insignia. It was clear they were imposters, and they had no right to be there. My heart broke into pieces in that moment. How could something so cruel happen in the place I trusted most, our home? How could these strangers think they could hurt my daughter and get away with it? I was in shock, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to let this go unanswered. It didn't take long for me to realize these weren't real law enforcement officers. The more I looked at them, the clearer it became. These so-called HOA security officers were nothing but imposters, people who wore fake badges and uniforms to intimidate and control. Their entire operation was built on fear and false authority. Their real motive? To bully residents into submission, enforce arbitrary and unfair rules that only served the HOA board's interests, and silence anyone who dared to speak up or question their power. They thrived on keeping people scared and compliant. I felt a burning hatred welling up inside me, a fierce, protective rage. How dare they lay a hand on my daughter? How dare they act like they owned the neighborhood, wielding power without any real right? Their faces told the story, smug, cold, unrepentant. They carried themselves like this was routine for them, like they had done it many times before and expected to get away with it again. Emily sat on the ground, tears streaming down her face as she clutched her injured wrist. But the imposters? They just laughed, as if her pain was nothing more than a joke. One of them turned to me with a sneer, warning me to keep quiet, or else I'd face consequences. They thought we were powerless. They thought they could intimidate a father and his daughter with their lies and threats. But they were wrong. In that moment, something inside me snapped, not out of blind fury, but a clear, resolute anger born from the injustice I had just witnessed. I reached into my pocket and pulled out something they weren't expecting, my real U.S. Marshal badge and ID, proof of years of dedicated service and a commitment to justice. The sudden silence was palpable. Their smug expressions vanished instantly, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty and fear. I looked each of them in the eye and said calmly but firmly, "Hands where I can see them. You're under arrest for assault and impersonation." They tried to argue, tried to bluff their way out, but I didn't give them a chance. With steady hands, I snapped the handcuffs onto the first man's wrists, then the second. The adrenaline fueled me. I wasn't about to let these imposters get away with what they'd done to my daughter or to any other family in our neighborhood. Emily watched me, her tears slowing as hope began to replace the fear in her eyes. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw a flicker of relief in her gaze. I immediately called the local police and explained the situation, making sure these fake enforcers would be taken into official custody. This wasn't just about my daughter anymore. This was a stand for every parent, every child, every neighbor who deserved to live without fear of intimidation from people abusing false authority. I was ready to fight, and I wasn't backing down. The days that followed were intense, but justice moved swiftly. The news of the fake HOA cops spread through our community like wildfire. What began as a local incident turned into a full-blown scandal that laid bare the corruption hiding within the HOA board. Neighbors who had once stayed silent started to speak out, empowered by what had happened. Emily's wrist slowly healed, and with it so did our faith in the power of standing up for what's right. I remember one quiet evening, sitting beside her on the couch, gently holding her hand. In that moment, I was filled with gratitude, grateful I was there when she needed me most, grateful that justice had found its way. The neighborhood felt different after that, safer, stronger. People weren't afraid anymore. The shadow of those fake enforcers lifted, replaced by a renewed sense of community and trust. What started as a shocking and painful injustice became a powerful reminder. Real justice can never be faked. It takes courage to stand up to bullies and to fight for what's right. And when you do, the satisfaction isn't just personal. It inspires others, it restores peace, and it brings hope back where it seemed lost. The imposters got exactly what they deserved, but more importantly, my daughter's bravery lit a spark in our community, showing us all that even in the darkest moments, truth and justice will prevail.